Ahoy! What's happening, everybody? I am live right now doing an impromptu live stream here to demo the product that I've been working on over the break and prior to the break. Um, you guys already know what I'm already offering. If you're on the Patreon, you get the individual stats for each fighter. Like, for instance, that Johan Leoness there, you get Sam Patterson's individual stats. You get the matchup stats where you put the stats, side by side for each fighter there. This is the Robertson-Viana fight. You could see how the stats compare to the divisional benchmarks. If it's red, it's worse than the divisional benchmark. If it's green, it's better than it. And it kind of shades the colors depending on how much worse or better it is than the benchmarks. And then we've also got the prop template here, which, takes our betting lines, it converts them into implied probabilities, it compares them to the divisional benchmark, and it also compares them to the combined fighter performance, against those particular bets. How many times Neil Magny fight haven't went to decision? 13 of 28. Malat 3 of 3, so 51% of the total. And you can compare that to the price of the line. You can compare that to the divisional benchmark. But a lot of these lines are becoming a lot sharper than they used to. And these markets are becoming a lot harder to find value. But what we do have are a bunch of websites now that are offering props. We've got Prize Picks here where we can, bet whether Malcolm Gordon gets over or under 27.5 significant strikes. We can find out, we could do takedown props. We can do fantasy score props. And since I have all the information, I can, if we want to learn whether, on Underdog Fantasy, for instance, let me log out here. God damn it. I got to fucking learn how to be better at this. Hang on just a second. Let me log out of this account. Log out. All right. Just give me a second, guys. All right. It won't even let me log in. Whatever it's unbelievable. Anyway, we've got props on all these different sites right now, and the new product is going to go fight by fight and give you looks at everything. So right now, this is the product for the Jillian Robertson versus Polyana Viana fight. So you can see there's a much better and updated look to the advanced stats here. And I'll zoom in just a little bit here so you can take a look. Just a much cleaner look. We've got, the overall record of each fighter, the offensive significant striking stats, defensive. We got offensive and defensive distance striking stats. We got offense and defense control time striking stats, which is the clinch striking and the ground striking stats combined together, and with, how much time was spent in control time positions to give you by minute stats there. We got the offensive and defensive grappling stats and the control time stats. And then what's really cool here is going to be the offensive and defensive DFS statistics will be available for every single fighter for every single market. So if you're a DraftKings player, you're going to know all the DraftKings possible information that you could possibly want to know for, in this case, Jillian Robertson. And if you play on FanDuel, we will have all the information for FanDuel. If you play on Prize Picks, we will have all the information for Prize Picks and as well for Underdog Fantasy. And a lot of these props that are now being offered, we're going to be able to take advantage of all these individual fighter stats, and not just the fighter stats, everybody, but my analytics product has access to stats that other people just simply won't have access to. So what we have here, for instance, is the entire flyweight division. Now, this will not be available on the product, but this is where all the calculations come from. This is every flyweight fight that's happened since the year 2013. We have who's been in the fight, we have how many rounds the fight was scheduled for, the time of the fight in seconds and in minutes, how many knockdowns were landed by the fighter that won, significant strikes landed, all of this stuff. It's all totaled. And then I have programmed a bunch of formulas into this spreadsheet to calculate a bunch of benchmarks and analytics that we can compare our individual fighter stats to the divisional benchmarks. So now we can start looking at these significant strike props that are offered by FanDuel or by all the websites, by Bet Online, by Bet365, by Bet Rivers, by Prize Picks and Underdog. And we can have access to all the possible information that's available because I have every single fight that's taken place here. Not only do we have the individual fighter stats, but we'll be able to compare those individual fighter stats to the divisional benchmarks to determine, do these guys land more significant strikes than the average? What is the average for the division? And how are the props relating to that? So we can take all this information and we can compare it to each other. And the other things that we can do here is I can now look, for instance, and say, let's look here. So for Prize Picks, for instance, we have a 95.5 fantasy score for Jasmine Jasudavicius. So I can bring up my Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Priscilla Cachoeira fight here. And I can look at significant strike prop totals here. I can look at takedown prop totals here. I can look at fantasy score prop totals, not just for Jasmine Jasudavicius, but also for all of the other ones, for Priscilla Cachoeira, who won't have props available on Prize Picks and Underdog. But there might be Bet Online and Bet365 props that are available for her takedown line. And we can fill all these in, and I can kind of explain to you guys what we're doing here. So one of the props that's available on Underdog Fantasy and on Prize Picks for Jasmine Jasudavicius right now is the 60.5 significant strike total. So what you'll be able to do on this, this will be available to you in the spreadsheet form. You'll be able to find out how many times Jasmine Jasudavicius has landed more than 60.5 significant strikes. 60.5 significant strikes for Underdog and 54.5 significant strikes for Bet Online. 2 out of 5 times she's landed more than that many significant strikes. And Priscilla Cachoeira has absorbed more than 60.5 significant strikes 4 out of 9 times. If you add those numbers together, it's a combined 6 of 14 or 42.86%. Now, on Prize Picks and Underdog for a 2-leg play, we're getting 2 units back for 1 unit risked. So the percentage threshold that we need to be 57.74% chance positive that this goes over or under in order for us to want to make this bet. So we're going to compare these numbers here to that number, and we get a negative 14.88%. So it's saying that about 43% of Jasudavicius's offense and Cachoeira's defense are we going over that number. So Priscilla's allowed more 61 or more significant strikes 4 of 9 times. Jasmine's landed more than that many 2 of 5 times. But we also have the fighter totals and the divisional averages here. And one of the things that we can see is that Jasmine is landing 3.32 significant strikes per minute. She lands 4.51 per minute spent at distance, but she only lands 1.95 significant strikes for every minute that are spent in clinch and ground control situations. Now, Jasmine Jasudavicius spends about 53% of her UFC cage time in those positions. So she lands 30 or 3.32 significant strikes per minute, yet they're giving us a total of 60.5 This is only a 15-minute fight. So in order to land 60.5 significant strikes, you need to be landing at least 4 significant strikes per minute. And that's if the fight goes 15 minutes. Priscilla only absorbs 2.93 significant strikes per minute. And if we look at this one stylistically, we know that Priscilla is a stalker. She kind of keeps that right hand up by the chin. She keeps her distance. She tries to intelligently pressure, find her way in, not get taken down and land that big right hand. But she's very low volume. And she's absorbed a lot of clinch and ground strikes per minute, 5.74, as we can see the number right there. But we got to remember that was the Valentina Shevchenko fight where she landed like 120 significant strikes from the crucifix position before Mario Yamasaki finally stopped that fight. So I don't think we're going to see this fight get anywhere near 60.5 significant strikes. So I'm betting the under on Underdog for 60.5 significant strikes. And the other thing that I want to explain here is Uncle Weezy's tits metric. And this is really, in my opinion, the best part of this product. Uncle Weezy's tits metric is a proprietary metric where I am basically telling you how many times a winning fighter has gotten more than 60.5 significant strikes in a win. We can look at that number. We see this historical win percentage over X significant strikes, where X is the number here, right? So this is for Prize Picks right here, these numbers. This is for Underdog, these numbers. And this is for Bet Online, these numbers, because usually you're going to have 3 different props. But what tits metric tells you is how many times the winning fighter has landed more than 60.5 significant strikes in the history of the division. In the history of the women's flyweight division, that's happened 43.43% of the time. The winner has landed 61 or more significant strikes. The loser has landed more than that many 24.24% of the time. So 33%, 33.84% of the total fighters in this division have landed more than that many significant strikes. So you know what you're up against. You know only less than 34% of women's flyweights land more than that many significant strikes in a fight. And then what we do is we weight that by the win percentage of each fighter. So we know, because Jasmine Jasudavicius is a minus 370 favorite, that she's got a 78% chance to win this fight. And Priscilla Cachoeira at plus 295 has got a 25% chance. So now we can, what the tits metric does is it takes these winning and losing percentages and it weights them by the implied win percentage of the fighter to give you a number that Uncle Weezy's tits metric says there's a 39.35% chance that Jasmine Jasudavicius gets over 60.5 significant strikes based purely on the data and the implied win percentage from her betting line. But we can also look now on all these fighter totals and divisional averages here and kind of figure, do we think that, they're going to, this particular stylistic matchup is going to land more significant strikes or less significant strikes than normal? And what I'm looking at is a low volume striking match on the feet and Jasmine Jasudavicius being in control time positions on the ground where she's hunting for submissions and trying to land some ground and pound. But her ability to only land 1.95 significant strikes per minute leads me to believe that while she's in those control time positions, there's a very small chance that she's going to get 61 or more significant strikes. So I like the under 60.5 for Underdog and Prize Picks here. Let's see what's up to everybody that's in the chat here. We got Jay Boog saying right in time. Let's go. We got Six Side Worldwide saying flapjacks all around and ring a ding ding. You guys, we got a super sticker from Six Side Worldwide, a 5-pound super sticker. I totally appreciate you. Thanks for checking in here. I hope you are enjoying this sneak peek at the products that I'm going to be making available on the Patreon and also on Dub Club, who I'm going to be launching this product with, hopefully at the end of next week when it becomes fully programmed, debugged, and ready to go. We got Taylor Tea saying, Uncle Weezy, good to see you, friend. It's good to see you in here, too. And ring a ding ding, you guys. A $2 donation from my guy, Taylor Tea, keeping the lights on here in his Uncle Weezy's studio. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for hanging out. And please, you guys in the chat, let me know if you have any questions about how this works. Six Side Worldwide said legendary breakdowns as always. We got Lone Wolf DFS saying, "What's your code for Underdog, Wheezy?" I don't know because I'm not logged in. I just don't like being logged in when I'm doing these live demos. But I will DM it to you, Lone Wolf, on Discord a little bit later on. A match deposit, yes, sir. I think I don't have like Underdog is not sponsoring me, but I hope that they will at some point. But I'm looking to definitely do content every week with their available props to try to find spots that stick out. I just put a 3-leg underdog play in my Discord for my Patreon members. And Mallet by Sub is the lock for Six Side Worldwide. Yeah, dude, I love Mallet by Sub. That's a bet. I have Mallet in under 1.5 rounds just in case he does knock him out. But I think Mallet first round sub is how that fight takes place. All right, you guys. So also what we can look at here, and I think where Uncle Wheezy's tits metric, everybody, is going to become especially valuable is when we look at fantasy scores, because fantasy scores, we can weight by winning and losing. And because of we get these win bonuses involved with fantasy scores, I think that not only are we going to see how many times, a fighter has scored more than that many, how many times their opponent has allowed more that many fantasy points, but also to look at it in a divisional context so you know exactly what you're up against. That's where Uncle Wheezy's tits metric, which is my metric for weighting these fantasy score, takedown, and significant strike props by winning, how many times the winner gets over that amount, how many times the loser gets over that amount, and what the implied winning and losing percentages of the fighter involved are. So let's look at the Jazz Devicius fantasy score here. Also, we can take a look at takedowns as well. So we've got 3 takedowns here for Prize Picks and Underdog. And we know that Jasmine Jazz Devicius has only gotten more than 3 takedowns 20% of the time in only 1 of 5 fights. And Cachoeira has allowed more than that many in 1 of 9 fights. So only 14% of their combined 14 fights have we seen, Jasmine land 4 or more takedowns, and Priscilla absorb more than that 4 or more. And then we can also look and see in the division here, only 9% of the winners are getting 4 or more takedowns, 2% of the losers, and about 7% only, and that's another thing. Only 7% of the division gets 3 takedowns as a total. So it's a very hard number to get. Getting 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 takedowns in a fight is a very low percentage proposition. Uncle Wheezy's tits metric in this case, now it's not as valuable for takedowns because we have to consider that there is a possibility for a tie. So there's going to be a tie, there's going to be a percentage that you go over, and there's going to be a percentage that you go under. And sometimes, especially if you're doing like a 1 takedown over under, which is the most common amount of takedowns, that tie becomes such a huge part of it because you're going to push if it ties. So Uncle Wheezy's tits metric says that based on the history of this division, Jasmine only has a 2.53% chance to get that number. And actually, if we weight Jasmine Jazz Devicius's 1.8 takedowns per 15 minutes that she's getting, with Priscilla Cachoeira's 0.89 that she's allowing, when I weight that, I'm getting a 1.5 takedown prediction. So kind of likes the under here. Jasmine's the kind of girl that when she takes you down, you stay there. So the takedown prop totals for the Jazz Devicius Cachoeira fight likes the under for takedowns. And then for fantasy score, we're looking at a 95.5 for Prize Picks, and for Jazz Devicius on Underdog. Let me hang on just a sec here. I'm just logging into my Underdog off screen here. And MMA. And there we Go. Jasmine does not have a fantasy score total this week on Underdog. But we do have a 95.5 total here for Jasmine. She's scored more than 96 prize picks points exactly 0 times in her UFC career, and that's in the 3 wins and 2 losses. Priscilla has absorbed more than 95.5 prize picks points 5 of 9 times, and we can just see that all the way over here. If we look, for instance, at Priscilla Cachoeira, and we look at her defensive totals here, and this is where the information is coming from. So prize picks, this is the total here. This is how many points she's given up. We can see that 4 times she's went over those numbers. 94.6 to not quite, but 130, 119, 106, and she allowed 154 prize picks points to Valentina Shevchenko, you guys. Wow. So yeah, she has allowed that many fantasy points that many times. And we would also be able to look at how many times Jasmine got over 96 prize picks points. It's 0. So it's important to note that only 36% of the time in 14 UFC fights has Jasmine scored more than 95.5, and has Priscilla allowed more than that many. And even Uncle Weezy's tits metric is saying that only 51% of the winning fighters are getting more than that amount. So in this case, 51%, 0.51% of the losers get over that amount. So, I mean, if it were a 50-50 win percentage here, we'd expect a 25% chance that they got over that number. But with it weighted by Jasmine's win percentage here, we're looking at a 40% probability here on Uncle Weezy's tits metrics. So that's what this product is going to do. It's going to give you looks at Underdog, prize picks, Bet Online props, Bet 365 props, eventually Bet Rivers props. Now they're making significant strike and takedown props available for fights as well. So this product will be able to give you not only all the other information that you were already getting from my products, but also the new DFS information for DraftKings, FanDuel, and then prize picks and Underdog players. And these particular new markets, it's going to be hard for them to set them in ways where they can avoid action, because it's always a 50-50 proposition on either side. It either goes over or it goes under. And especially when you're pricing significant strike props at a half significant strike, there's a 0% chance that it doesn't go over or under. So we're going to be able to find some mispriced lines here based on the data and then based on our stylistic reads of these fights. So the in my Discord, the play that I put together was, let me look at it here. I've got a 3-leg Underdog play that I put together and gave out in my Discord. And where is my Discord? I took it down. Oh my God. All right. So just give me a second here. And it is going to be Jasmine Jasudavicius under 60.5 significant strikes. We already went over why that was what we were going to do. We are going to also we're going to take a look at the Johan Leoness fantasy score prop. Now, I want to be clear here that I think Johan loses this fight. I'm not impressed with his style. He's low volume. He winds up 100% power on everything that he throws. And he's not particularly a great offensive grappler. And Sam Patterson's a great defensive grappler. Also, I see Sam, as the fight goes on, there being a massive conditioning differential here. So I do see Sam winning the second and third rounds of this fight. I worry about an early knockout for Johan Leoness, but we're looking at a 61.55 point total here on Underdog Fantasy. Johan Leoness has scored more than 61.55 underdog points exactly 0 times in 3 UFC fights. Patterson has allowed more than that many once because he got knocked out by Yanal Ashmos in the first round. But also, I think it's very important to note only 52% of welterweights go over that number. 52% right here of winning fighters, have get more than that many underdog points. And Johan Leoness is a guy who on Underdog is only averaging a 2-minute or 2 points per minute work rate here. This is something that I think is very important to note. Even if this fight goes the distance, you're only getting 30 draft or underdog points at 2 points per minute. 2 times 15 is 30. And then you get a 10-point win bonus for a decision win. That's 40. Even if he wins in the first round, if he doesn't get a knockout, there's a chance that he doesn't get over 61.55 points. If he doesn't get a knockdown, I mean. So he's kind of finish or bust here. And if this fight does not finish in the first or second rounds, he's going to have a very small chance of getting over that number. And he's, like I say, he's really worried about getting tired. So he's very low volume. So I like the Leoness under 61.55 fantasy score. We can add that in the underdog play. And then also I want to go over the under for Jillian Robertson, which is just a ridiculous number. Jillian Robertson's fantasy score on Underdog is set at 71.55 points. Jillian Robertson has had 15 UFC fights, and she scored more than 71.55 underdog points exactly once. Polyana Viana has allowed more than 71.55 underdog points 0 of 9 fights. 1 of 24 of their combined UFC fights has this number been crested by Jillian on offense or been allowed by Polyana on defense. The TITS metric is giving us a 19.82% chance that a fighter in this division with Jillian's win probability gets more than that many underdog points. Jillian scores 2.37 underdog points per minute. Polyana only allows 2.29 per minute. So even if this fight finishes in the first round and 4 minutes in, we can count on 10 points from Jillian and a 50-point bonus, which brings her to 60 underdog points. Even if this goes 3 rounds and finishes in the third round with let's just say it goes the full 15, right? Goes full 15, but we'll give her a third round bonus. 15 times 2.2 or 34, which is the weighted average of what Jillian scores and Polyana allows. 2.34 times 15 is 35.1. And then you would get a 30-point bonus in the third round, 65.1 points. You don't even get 71. I don't know who put that total there. I mean, only 26% of the winners score that many in an underdog score in this division. And Underdog punishes grapplers because you don't get nearly as many ground strikes as you do strikes at distance. And what you only get 5 points per takedown, and you get no points for control time and no points for total strikes. So this is a very bad line. 71.55 is almost a sure thing for Underdog for a grappling heavy fighter in Jillian Robertson. So the 3-leg underdog play is going to be Jasmine Jasdavicius under 60.5 significant strikes. Johan Leoness less than 61.5 fantasy points. And Jillian Robertson less than 71.55 fantasy points. 3 legs, $100 wins you 600. That's the play, you guys. Jazz Davicius, 60.5 significant strikes is going to be a very, very high number. She's going to need to land way more ground strikes per minute than she has in the past. Johan Leoness at 61.55 fantasy points. He has a 0% chance of getting that number if he loses this fight. And then Jillian Robertson under 71.5 fantasy points. Man, I would have that capped under 71.5 fantasy points for Jillian on Underdog at like minus 300, minus 400. So that is how I'm going to use and how you can use this new product to find all of these mispriced lines, whether it be for fantasy score for Sam Patterson and Johan Leoness here. And you're going to get it for every single fight. Takedown props on both sides. Significant strike props on both sides. It's also going to have the prop template, which you're used to getting on my Patreon for $20 a month. This product will obviously include that. You're going to get divisional analytics, everything that you could possibly imagine. Striking statistics per weight class, average of winning striking statistics, average of losing striking statistics by division. DFS scoring, work rates per minute, points per fight, for DraftKings, FanDuel, Prize Picks, and Underdog. DFS scoring by loser, winner, and average. Benchmarks for 3-round fights and 5-round fights, for significant strikes, for takedowns, for fantasy score. You're going to have all the analytics at your fingertips. And I appreciate you guys tuning in live for this demo. I'm going to have something formal put together and a presentation on how best to use the product. Once the product is finished, it's not completely finished yet, but please take that 3-leg Underdog play as your Uncle Wheezy's free play. And this is the demo play where we're going to use these analytics to find mispriced lines. And it's going to be 3 unders here. Lower than 60.5 significant strikes on Underdog for Jazz Davicius. Lower than 61.55 fantasy points for Johan Leoness. And lower than 71.55 fantasy points for Jillian Robertson. We got Teron Brown in the room saying, "What's up, Uncle? Good to see you hanging out in here, Teron." We've got Frank Bryan, ring a ding ding with the $2 donation saying, "Uncle Wheezy, the GOAT. Appreciate you, Frank." And Keiki Agagi saying, "Oi!" Straight from the Poland. Dude, always good to have our Polish people checking in here. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the little demo here of the product, and I will have information available on Twitter, on my Patreon, and on Dub Club for when this product is finished and available for your digesting. I appreciate you guys. Make some money on these fights, and I will post this free Underdog play for you guys on Twitter and in the Discord. Have a great one, everybody. Take care.